Yo, call me a star like Carnival Duemo of that Arsenal. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the GamesCage. Today and only today, I am here to do a re-review discussion of Sonic Frontiers, right? That's right, I replayed the game recently for my Sonic Revisited series, and this is the first time that I really played the game start to finish with all the DLC. Obviously, I jumped into the game with the DLCs, and I've done, casual jump-ins, but this was really the first time that I was like, all right, no PC mods, no nothing, right? Like, what happens if I play Sonic Frontiers today from beginning to end? And I played the base ending and the Final Horizons ending. I want to just kind of give my updated modern thoughts on the game, because I feel like I've gained a lot more love and understanding of the game throughout playing this, and obviously playing a lot of the 3D Sonic games. And honestly, when it comes to Sonic Frontiers, I mean, I just want to get into it. Of course, make sure to subscribe to your boy if you like videos like this and you want more. Please let me know. But yeah, Sonic Frontiers, obviously a game that I've always said, on an extremely personal note, is very important to me, right? It's like, I feel like it's the game that I truly started covering from start to finish. Everybody started knowing me through that game, hyped it up, talking about it, and it came out, everything. And I feel like I have a lot of legacy and love for Sonic Frontiers, from its initial reveal to, at the time the IGN gameplay came out, to the Game Awards first in-game look, to, all the trailers and lead-ups and previews. Like, there's so much of that game that I felt part of. And so when it came out, I remember I loved it, right? But I'll never forget, right, that ending with Ouranos Island being like, okay, wow, that was kind of a flat ending for a game that had so many highs, right? And obviously with the Final Horizon that came out a year later, it felt like when I jumped into that, I was like, oh my god, this is brutal. And I also haven't played this game in a minute, and so now that I played it from start to finish, I had a bit of a different perspective, right? Obviously, right away you start the game on Kronos Island, right? I'm gonna try to talk about the game as much as I can, keep it casual, keep it fun. I remember just playing through Kronos for the first time on stream again when I did, and man, I love that sense of wonder, how like the island starts super somber, right? I immediately love the tone, but I immediately like playing the game, right? I remember just going through the motions in the beginning, just going on grind rails, hopping on the little balloons, right? You get your first cyberspace level, that you start with, where you are not in control, right? Or then you go into 1-2, which obviously, is the iconic fun one. You get the bridge unlocked outside, and then you enter Kronos, and right away, the sense of fun begins. And I think I've said this before, what I love about Sonic Frontiers is it's what I want from platformers, right? Because platformers are my favorite genre, and I feel like when you apply open world games, which are so tired in the AAA space, when you apply an open world to a platformer, I feel like that's so much more exciting, right? Because the whole idea with a platformer is that the movement is fun and the action is fun. And with Sonic, right, you have a character that is like running at supersonic speeds to different parts of the map, and it gets addicting, bro. It hooks you right away. The stupid little puzzles you do on the map, even just unlocking grind rails, even if it's tossing a ball into those invisible rings, even if it's solving a little puzzle, I don't know, like the game has this little draw of little things you want to do. And at some point, the more you unlock on the island, when the grind rails start showing up more and more, I feel like it just becomes fun to just run around the island. And immediately I love the controls, right? Even setting up some of the sliders and stuff. I do hope that they ditch the sliders in the future, because it does feel a little weird that I gotta choose like to set my speed, distance, and acceleration, stuff like that. I'm like, how about you just make the moveset concrete? It works for this game, because I think in this game, half the fun of the movement, I feel like, is breaking the game in a lot of ways. Not something you should often be praising for a game, but I feel like a lot of the fun of Sonic Frontiers is doing shit like, boosting on a grind rail and jumping off to get to a different area, right? Or running up a cliff and then you're in the air for a while, then you can stomp to a spot you gotta get to, right? You can, do the parry in the air to sidestep to a path that you were about to fall off. There's a lot of cool little text and movement stuff you can do, and I feel like Kronos right away is the most, I feel like is the most identifiable island and the least frustrating one, right? Everything is clear. You know how to get from point A to point Z. There's nothing that really leads you astray. There's that one tower in the sky you go to fight some enemies. You have some of the bosses like Asia, you got Squid, you got Ninja, you got some really of the marquee bosses in there, and I feel like right away you get hooked into the gameplay flow, right? Of like, you do some some missions, you talk to Amy, you go to cyberspace. Like, I've always loved the gameplay loop of Frontiers. I like the dynamic of, hey, you go through the open zone, right? You unlock parts of the map. When you unlock parts of the map, it makes things more visible, right? You can get a visible boss. You beat the boss. You get a gear, right? What do the gears do? You can go to cyberspace. When you play cyberspace, you can just play through it, or you play through it and do the missions in them to get the keys. The keys get you the Chaos Emerald. More Chaos Emerald nets you more story. Like, I like that there's an identified gameplay loop, and I like that you can sort of do it your own way. Like, you could theoretically not clear stuff on the island, you know, like do any of like the side specials that unlock the map. You could just find the bosses if you want and get the gears, and you could just find the cyberspace levels laying around. You could just do a bunch of the missions in a cyberspace level, unlocking, you know, a lot of the Chaos Emerald paths, or you could, you know, spend your time doing all the cyberspace levels and get all the keys, and suddenly, like, you know, whenever you're ready, you can just go unlock a bunch of Chaos Emeralds in a row and get a bunch of story stuff in a row. But what I really loved about that is not just the flow, but been obviously a big point of conversation, the whole like Roger Craig Smith's deeper voice. I think I've gotten used to it. I think it fits the tone of the game a little bit. There's moments where, yeah, it sounds a little awkward, but there's times where I think it sounds really good. I think it's at its best when he's having fun, right? I like when he's talking to, you know, Amy on the island, being like, there, Amy, we can do this. We can protect the island, but we have to focus on the mission. Like, there's moments where, like, you can hear the fun side where he's like, you know, careful, where's the fun in that? You know, that sort of back and forth that Sonic has. He's still him for sure, but the tone of the story, I think, fits. And I have said, though, before that I do think Amy's story is a little bit too sad. You know, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think I would like a bit of a change of pace for Amy in the future. But again, I understand here they sort of really wanted to separate what was going on before to now. I think they really wanted Amy to have a purpose, for Amy to even be hurt, and for Amy to sort of have a different road, and then, you know, she's gonna go back to her bubbly self in the future. I did realize this time around playing cyberspace that, man, the 2D physics are weird. Like, Sonic's speed is slowed down in cyberspace in 2D for some reason. The physics of it just feel a little bit off, but the 3D ones are still really, really fun to go through. And obviously, right, the big moment of Kronos Island. By the way, fuck that ending of Kronos Island where you have to do this random light laser puzzle, which is awful. I hated that. But obviously, you know, you get to the grand finale of Kronos, and that is the big encounter with Giganto, and that to this day is magical. Like, I feel like, you know, whether it's reacting with my chat or on my own, like, just that moment you get to Giganto, the adrenaline you get from climbing him, and you see Sonic, you know, going out, that's gonna be a moment for history. And to this day, it has that impact, which is what I love so much about it. And that fight is so good, man, because you could just, you know, you could bash Giganto, you could do the big side loops to him to get him in the air, you could side loop him a second time. I feel like when you know how to really fight Giganto, that fight is so hype. You know what I mean? Like, you're spamming the fucking punches, you do the double side loops, you know, you're doing the you can, you know, spam the L1 and R1 to actually dodge the laser he uses. You can go up to him. Like, there's a lot of cool techs and cool shit you can do against Giganto. I love how they end that battle and how they end that on. It's so memorable. It's so good. And I love so much about it. Going back now and having the DLCs is kind of cool, right? Like, you have, you know, the music notes that you can collect around the map, which is super dope. You have the extra Coco challenges you can do, like the master challenges. You even have the time challenges that I really love, where, you know, you have to go around the island, you know, getting the yellow balls and doing all this shit. Like, it's super fun the way that now you have even more to do on Kronos, which is like something that I did feel like I had enough content in the original Kronos, right? But, you know, looking back now, there's like even more to do that feels optional, right? Something you could do for fun, or even just if you just want an excuse to do more stuff on the island. I love that. And of course, you then head into Aries Island, which I think Aries Island is definitely one that I'm a mixed bag on, right? I feel like this is where the game sort of gets a little weird in terms of like the area design, where I like the look and aesthetic of Aries Island, this deserted island. I love the music, everything involving Knuckles. I love so much. I love how much they get into the lore, right, of, you know, Knuckles, to how he relates himself to the ancients, right, you know, having a clan like that. I love that cute moment they have together. I don't know why they got like a lot of riz going on between each other in that island, but hey, by all means, you know, I love the, you know, everything about the island. But there's at least some things that start to show The shark boss is a little bit frustrating, right? I think Strider as a boss for some reason is hella annoying, right? And I think a lot of the navigation issues start in Aries Island. Like, there will be times where like you have a mission on the other side of the map, and to get there you'll be so confused on how to do it. Like, you'll be walking through a small path, but then, you know, the bounce pad will send you back to a random spot you didn't go to, or you'll end up at a dead end, you know. And sometimes I always felt like I had to break the game a little bit to get to where I want to, which I don't mind. You know, I don't mind boosting on a grind rail and jumping to the other side. In fact, I find joy in doing stuff like that, but that is definitely when a bit of the clarity of how to get from point A to point B sort of starts to become an issue on that line. But again, for me, I was able to do it for the most part. And obviously, if you were playing on New Game Plus, you would have the spin dash, which makes it even more easy. You know what I mean? So that shit is awesome. I love stuff like that in there. But I think the biggest thing about that, right, is that I love just playing the game, right? And obviously, I haven't even talked about the combat, which is such a major part of Sonic Frontiers. And combat is just, for me, it's so fun, right? And I felt like I wish there were even more reasons to do it. Like, I wish the island had more combat challenges, right? Besides the bosses, because besides fighting the bosses, right, I never feel any need to fight the little enemies on the map, right? The little critters. So I wish they almost had missions that, you know, put you in like an arena setting where you had to fight like the regular enemies in the game, right? Because I feel like that would make you have to do your cool combos and shit, kind of like how they have some of those challenges in the Final Horizons for climbing the towers. But a lot of it is meant to be flashy, right? A lot of the moves aren't necessarily a counter to an enemy. You're not doing a specific move because that's an enemy's weakness, right? You're just doing moves because they're cool. Like, I love doing cross slash. That's one of my favorite attacks, where he does like the big key blast. I like doing the big spin in the air he does. I like going into the stomp, and I like getting Phantom Rush where there's like 50 Sonics. Like, I love how flashy and cool Sonic's moveset is. I wish, you know, the skill tree was even bigger, right? I wish there was more stuff you can unlock as you went through the game, right? Because I feel like you can easily unlock everything in the skill tree by like the second island of the game, which is a little disappointing, but obviously a bit of a difficult thing to handle when you are, you know, having an open world game where you can just do a million things at once. But I do hope in the next game that they make some things that are further out on the skill tree that go crazy, right? And would deal massive damage to bosses, right? And obviously you do have a level up system in the game. You do have a speed system. So, you know, obviously by doing more stuff on the islands, fighting more enemies, you can get little XP. Go to the Hermit Coco, Elder Coco, get your speed up, defense up, rings up, which is really cool, right? But you know what's funny is I almost wish this game didn't have that, right? Because you can easily beat this game on level 1 with everything and have like a solid time. Things, you know, some things get a little bit difficult, but it's never, I've never felt like it was like, damn, bro, I'm fucked because I didn't level up. I feel like you can definitely do a lot of shit without leveling up, or at least have it capped to a certain level, because 99 on some things is a little absurd for the most part. Because again, I was able to get my strength up at about the 20s, speed up to about the 20s, and have a good time. But obviously, you know, getting your speed up and everything is very much akin to Sonic Unleashed, where you had the level up system in there. And I think it does work out. I just think, you know, they could have made it so that there's fewer levels and they're more impactful, as opposed to, hey, just here's a shit ton of level ups you can have, and you don't really know how much more damage you're gonna do or speed you're gonna go through, but you're gonna have that, right? And so I think stuff like that would be better fleshed out in the future of the series. But again, World 2, a lot of great cyberspace. I think in general, cyberspace, I was talking about the cyberspace levels. Cyberspace for me overall has been such a fun experience. I do think with the spin dash, it's been even better, right? I feel like you could skip entire spots and then you could do some cool bounces, cool movements. I do think, again, it's a weird thing of, I feel like I'm breaking cyberspace when I use the spin dash through it, right? Because you could just bounce through complete different spots. But I don't know, there's something about this game where it feels kind of fun. The way I describe it is it's almost like 200cc in Mario Kart, right? Where part of it feels like it wasn't built for that in mind, but that's kind of the fun of it. So you can crash out, you can make mistakes, but it's a fun option to have and to use in there. You don't have to, but I do like that it exists. But I do hope that for the next game, you know, the spin dash is there right away, and that, you know, platforming, moving, and everything is accounted for with the spin dash in mind, you know, because I feel like a lot of Sonic Frontiers nowadays can be changed in how you play and move through it with the spin dash. That's kind of like why I liked, you know, when I replayed it this time around, not having the spin dash, because I kind of just like playing it regularly with some of the de-acceleration things on. But I think for the most part it was fine. And yeah, Aries Island, like I said, bit of a bitch to navigate, but still fun aesthetically. I really like, you know, the little quirks you have in from there. Like I said, Knuckles' plotline is really good. That's when you start getting into the deep lore of the ancients. And I love also the shit with the ancients. Really cool stuff that they got, you know, just how they were just this genius ancient civilization, right, trying to protect themselves, you know, the end coming and stopping them going into space, trying to kill it. They had those titans protecting the chaos emerald. Just really cool storyline that went down with them. I really like how they handled that, and I really love how they handled Knuckles' story on Aries. Really, like, obviously, you know, Knuckles is a character that often isn't on Angel Island as much as he makes it sound, but he often is there, and I like to hope that they were setting him up for future activities. You know what I mean? I like the idea that maybe, like, okay, listen, Knuckles, over here, my man's like, pull up, you know, pull up wherever you want to go. I don't know why I said Boston for a second. But I think Knuckles being able to go back to maybe a world explorer for a little bit, you know, time to time, not spending all the damn day on Angel Island would be really nice. I think what they should do is, like, Tails should just give him like a tracking device. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, yo, like, hey, I got some cameras roaming around Angel Island. You go travel around, just check in on it, whatever you can. Then you can see if there's any shenanigans pulling up. I think something like that would be clever. But for the most part, really good shit. And of course, you end the island with the big wyvern fight, and I love the wyvern fight. This is actually, I always say, I think the more I've thought about it, I think the wyvern fight is probably my second favorite fight in the game, besides like the true Final Horizon ending, because wyvern to me is so sick, because like you're flying across the entire island, you know, you're parrying these giant bullets coming at you, you're flying to the front of them, you know, you can chain wyvern together with the side loop, you can even toss him to a fucking mountain. Like, I feel like it has such cinematic value in production that to me it sits so well. You know, it even has that middle QTE where like you're gathering the bullets and stuff around you, you're kicking it onto him, then you have the final set piece where, you know, you get him to eat all the bullets he's got. You know, there's a lot of cool shit that happens against wyvern. I think for me that cinematic value stands out a lot to me, and I really just love that fight. I think Aries Island overall just is really great, right? Like I said, besides the traversal issues, I think the cyberspace levels are great. I think movement is still fun. And then of course you have what I would consider really the last major island until, you know, Final Horizon fix Ouranos is Chaos Island, right? Chaos Island is another one, and man, you forget just how much 2D is in this one until you go back to it. God damn, I don't know what was up with the development here. I don't know if it was because they just didn't want to design many 3D platforming challenges, but the amount of times you are taken away from 3D on this island and forced into a 2D camera perspective is a little bit absurd. I love the vibe of Chaos Island. I love the island movements in that place. It's sick. I even love the plot line you have with Tails over there. Chaos Island is definitely the most frustrating, not just because there's these weird fake outs. Chaos Island does this thing where, you know, there's those blue light up chests on the ground. It does this thing where it fakes them out, where you'll spin on them, and instead of giving you, you know, Tails wrenches you need to get his memory tokens, you'll just end up getting a platform instead, which is like, okay, man, I guess, right? Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird, like, why are you tricking me? Why aren't you just, you know, showing me what's going to give me a platform versus what's going to give me an item, right? Because sometimes getting to the next story beat or memory with Tails can take a bit of time, but again, once you know once you figure out Chaos Island, I think it's fun. I think, like I said, with the spin dash, it's a little bit more tolerable. But yeah, I wish it didn't restrict you to a lot of 2D sections. I mean, even one of the biggest tower climbs in the middle of Chaos Island is like a 2D section, right? It's buried in a lot of 2D for some reason. I felt like that was them being like, yo, we didn't, you know, really get time to develop big open 3D platforming, you know, sections for this. But again, there's still some good times to be had in there. There's still some good boss variety. But I do think, like I said, aesthetically it's fire. I think the story stuff they do with Tails is really good. And I you know, I know some people like to criticize that Tails' whole thing on this island is, you know, saying that he was weak, but he never was. It was just the right. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that, right? But the reality is the games from the 2010s happened, right? And it would be weird to not address those games. And I think especially for people that grew up with those games, sadly, that's how they knew Tails, right? And so instead of just pretending like that was never Tails, I think they're just like, you know what, let's take the L and just have it so that Tails right away is understanding, you know, that he fucked up in those storylines and that he wants to go do his own thing and be better. So I understand that's not what Tails always was, right? And it was a mess up of the 2010s to make Tails a coward, but I would have rather they do this than just you know, continue the trail being like, all right, let's just double down. Tails is going to be the player 2, but I'm glad he wants to do his own thing and evolve past Sonic. And of course, when you get to Chaos Island, not only are you greeted with some great cyberspace levels, you are greeted with the night fight. But before you get to the night fight, you got to play a game of pinball, which the pinball game is so random. You know, I'm not frustrated by it too much. Like, it's not something that takes me that many tries, except when, you know, Chad tries to make me lose. But for the most part, the pinball game is fine. It's a little bit random to just place right before you're about to have the rawest fight in the series. But regardless, you get to the night, and man, what a spectacle the night fight is, right? Obviously, you have an incredible track with Find Your Flame, right? And then you're getting some crazy rock. You're doing some crazy damage. You get the side loop on him, you know, get spears attached to him, push him down. You get to, you know, attack the shield, but you can press R1 to skip past and then attack him. Like, there's a lot of cool techs you can do versus Night. I love that second phase where you got to parry the shield, hit him back with it. Like, they made sure the night fight was raw as hell. And of course, you all know the moment now. You know, he gets the side loop, the sword, cuts him in half, never gets old. I think that's what I love about the Titan battles. They never get old for me. I can just do them over and over and over, and I'm fine with that because they're just so cool for me. And then you get to the end game, right, which is Rhea and Ouranos, right? When you get to Rhea Island, at that point, Sonic, you know, has so much cyber corruption on him, and it's basically the big lore exposition dump, right? The idea of Rhea is it's another extension of Kronos, where it's this green grassy field and you're going to 4 different towers to activate them. What a fucking ride this is. I love the challenges here, right? I love the tower climbs. They are anxiety inducing in a good way, I think, right? They're challenges that keep you on your toes, because you know once you fall, man, you're gonna have to climb all the way back up, so you got to be on your toes. It's a mix of these 3D challenges with these 2D challenges, mostly 2D sadly, but I don't know, the tower climbs in Rhea Island are something I really love, and I almost sort of love like a challenge mode with those. I know there's some mods that add to them, but those are really good challenges in my opinion, and I would love to see more of that, which we do end up seeing in Final Horizon, right? These big tower climbs, because it's stressful. Like I said, it's a good kind of platforming to me, where like, damn bro, I really gotta be on my toes, especially when it comes to Sonic, right, where the whole thing is about speed and, you know, quick time thinking. I feel like those towers really encourage that. But the whole thing is, once you go on the top of each, you are hit with the lore exposition, right? You're hit with the big story beats about, you know, how the planet was, their home planet was literally destroyed for the ancients. They were up in space, you know, they tried to find, yeah, they were drawn to the Master Emerald on Earth, you know, they fight the end and the giant titans in space, they get cooked. It's kind of crazy how much shit the ancients went through, but really cool lore stuff. But in the meantime, Sonic is getting corrupted by, you know, cyber data, and obviously Sage is telling him like, look dude, you're not gonna make this through. But of course, our boy Sonic smiling through it all, which I really like. They do this weird fake out where, you know, like Sonic is like officially gonna get cooked, and I got sad there, but you know, they power of friendship, go inside him, and boom, he goes back to normal, randomly cutting to Ouranos Island. And man, let me tell you, for the first time replaying Ouranos Base Island since Final Horizon, holy shit, I did not realize just how no cinematic story moment till the end of that island. Like literally, like you can talk to Sage sometimes around, but there is not a single mandatory cutscene after you get any Chaos Emeralds. You are purely collecting Chaos Emeralds. Of course, there's some cool cyberspace levels. I believe there's 8 or 9 this time around. A lot of the cool highway ones that are bigger, more fleshed out. I love 4-2, one of my favorite cyberspace levels. But really, yeah, that's when I felt like some of the best ones are there. But yeah, I was so shocked replaying and realizing, especially after Final Horizon, just how, damn, bro, they really just ran out of money at this point. Like, this was really like the tail end of Dev, where they're like, man, we gotta, you know, just get to the end here. And even when you get to the end, wow, what a bummer, right? Obviously, you know, the initial fight with the OG Supreme has always been very weak, right? I don't like that version of I'm Here too much. It doesn't even have that many QTEs or cinematics. The most you'll get is like Sonic, you know, dodges the bullet that he shoots or whatever, and then, you know, you take him down, he falls to his knees, and that's really it. But I will say though, the most random thing about this game, but a really cool one, is the original fight against the end, where it turns into a shoot 'em up, right? And obviously this has always been a weird one for a lot of people, like, why is this a shoot 'em up? It's fucking awkward, it's hella weird. But I think, like, aesthetic wise and thematically, it's really cool, it's really creepy. You know, you have the end giving this terrifying speech about, you know, you have fought gods, defeated everything, you know, but you are still nothing. Like, I love this sort of back and forth. I love the music that plays. I love the ending of it, you know, how you're Sonic rocketeering towards it, you get that flash of light. Like, there's a lot of cool thematic stuff with the end, but man, what a weird ending. Like, your final Titan is supposed to be your most hyped thing, and it's so lackluster. And then you get into an extremely difficult, by the way, top-down shooter mode, which I feel like a lot of people were not even able to probably beat this game because that shit probably kicked their ass. You know, you probably could, but it would take a lot of tries for a lot of people. So I can see why that would have frustrated people. And yeah, initial end of the game, though, like, very emotional. You think they do the Sage is dead thing, but she comes back during the post-credits, and you have Sonic and the gang floating away. And honestly, I came out of the game being like, damn, I love playing that. End of Ouranos is kind of whatever. But then, of course, the journey doesn't end, right? Because this game had a big thing, which is the Final Horizon. And I remember when I first played the Final Horizon, I had a great time, but I thought it was fucking weird, right? I thought it was weirdly structured. I thought the difficulty spike was unbelievably insane. But since then, they've done a few patches to the Final Horizon that made fighting enemies a little easier. They fixed Knuckles' glide because his glide was atrocious. First time playing Final Horizon, and man, I gotta say, I ended up loving Final Horizons Island a lot more this time around, which to me is a big deal because I already enjoyed it. And so playing as, you know, Tails, Amy, Knuckles felt so much better, right? You are very restricted with each character in the beginning, right? The whole flow of them is that, you know, you're going across the island. They each have color-coded challenges. So like you'll have platforming challenges with Amy that are pink. You'll have Tails ones that are yellow, Knuckles ones that are red, right? And you'll go through each of their little challenges, and they are really difficult. And I remember the first time playing through it, I did kind of a few of them, and then I would sort of move on. But this time around, like on stream then off stream, I kind of went and did a shit ton of each character's challenges. Man, they're really fun. You know, there's a lot of cool platforming challenges. Some of the most difficult ones in the series are in that there's somewhere you have to use, you know, some of Amy's abilities where you hold square to pop a bunch of balloons and teleport to other spots. There's somewhere you got to use her triple jump because she deadass has a triple jump. There's one where, you know, for Tails, sometimes you got to use his wrenches to pop some balloons to go to the other side. With Knuckles, you know, you got to break through some walls, do some gliding challenges. Like, there is really, really good variety in terms of their level, you know, their types of challenges. But the big thing is each character has sort of a puzzle breaking mechanic, right? So like with Amy, because she has a triple jump, there's so many times you can just jump to different spots and just skip her entire challenge and jump all the way to it, right? Or with Tails, you can straight up unlock the SA2 mech and just fly up to every challenge you want to go to without doing them. And even Knuckles, right? You can get an infinite glide, which like you can skip half his puzzles and go right to where you got to get the upgrade. And so I think them inherently giving you that ability stops people from wanting to try because they're like, well, I have a free pass, right? Because when I try to actually do those challenges this time, I was like, damn, these are really good. They're really challenging, you know, they're really good. And now that, you know, that the enemies aren't stupidly overpowered, right? And the characters got buffed. Once you level up Amy, Knuckles, and Tails, you do a lot more damage to enemies. You can actually fight the bosses. There is still zero reason to fight any bosses in the DLC. There's no enemies running around, which is weird, right? I don't understand why they went with that. I don't know. The Final Horizon is so I don't even know how to fucking explain it, bro. It's like a dev build that's like super good, but you can like tell it's a dev build because the pop-in is absurd, right? And there's just things that like if you were playtesting this, you'd be like, you should do this, and that. But they didn't, so they just dropped it, you know, and they updated it with some things, but that's really about it, right? But obviously, you know, you get a more fleshed out story this time around. The idea is that the gang is getting the Chaos Emeralds while Sonic is gathering, you know, the top of these towers, which those are like harder versions that are really good, right? I think this time around the tower challenges I had a lot more fun with, maybe because I was a bit more familiar with them. But like I said, I think overall I am a massive fan of the tower challenges in Sonic Frontiers. In fact, the best part about the DLC ones is they're all in 3D. Like genuinely, they are all, every tower challenge in Sonic Frontiers is in 3D. There's not a single 2D thing in the Final Horizon. I think this is where Sonic Team needs to continue to go, right? Even the cyberspace levels, which are psychotic, by the way. I gotta say this, the cyberspace levels in Sonic Final Horizon are fucking crazy. There is only one that I think is genuinely not good. There's one where it's like a race against Tails and you have a shit ton of different paths, but it's incredibly frustrating because the last section of it has these platforms that are falling, and half the time they like break and you can't really do it right. But besides that, I love the cyberspace levels. And while I think Shadow Generations is a bit more of a sign of how they're going to handle 3D levels, you know, in the future with how many paths you can take, I really did like sort of how chaotic and crazy some of the cyberspace levels were in this Final Horizon DLC. And in general, like the final version of Ouranos is so much more psychotic, and I wish they had time to finish it or incorporate in the base game, because like I said, some of the pop-in is crazy. The fact that you can fly to all the challenges without doing them is kind of insane. Like, imagine having to have done a shit ton of each character's platforming segments. That would have been so much longer for the DLC, but it would have been just so much more fun for a lot of people, because dude, I was loving doing a lot of their platforming challenges, you know, and I still like going back and just doing one or two really randomly, but they did a good job. And I think it had a good mix of having some cool story moments in between. You know, you had Amy being like, you know, feeling the cyber correction and be like, holy shit, like Sonic had to deal with so much of this shit. And there's some cool character interactions on the island, you know, between Amy, Sage, Knuckles, Sage, where you get a bit more lore about the ancients, you know, why there was underground areas, what might have happened with their families, why, you know, there's all the rocks on the ground. I guess they like just playing Jenga. So there's a lot of cool shit that they probably were doing and trying to do in general with the Final Horizon, right? But I do wish the gang interacted a bit more. You know, for a DLC that was meant to have them all together, they're very separated throughout all of it. And I can't tell which style I want more for the future. And you can let me know in the comment section below, right? What would you rather? Future style and open zone where the gang follows you sort of like it's Sonic Heroes? Would you rather like this where they're all part of one story but they have different segments? Or would you rather it be like adventure, right, where, you know, each character has their own story? Because I kind of fuck with the idea of maybe like a Sonic Heroes type beat in an open zone, because that'd be kind of awesome if you each work together in an open zone environment with your different abilities. I think that'd be really cool if they did something like that. But yeah, no, looking back at the Final Horizon, I actually ended up loving it a lot more than I initially thought. And even if it has some moments of jank and frustrating, I think overall I had a sick time, and I thought it was super dope. And I think you get to the end, right, obviously with the big Master Coco trial. And before that, you know, when you climb all the towers of Sonic, you do these little trials with some of the enemies, and some of them are really dumb. Like there's one where you just have to spam parry, hit it, spam parry, hit it against those like flower guys. There's one where you're just fighting Ninja at like 500% speed, but you have like 12 minutes to do it, so it's like not even a challenge. There's one where you're fighting those speed dogs, and again, it's at 500% speed. I'm like, some of these could have been, I feel like, more fleshed out and more fun, as opposed to like, here's a fast forward version of this fight. But of course, you then get to King Master Coco Shao, which has been patched since the initial launch, so it was nowhere near as bad. I was able to do it pretty quickly within maybe 2 or 3 tries, and man, what a brutal trial, but what a really good one. I mean, trying to learn Giganto, you know, quickly, you know, get the parries on time, doing everything, not wasting rings is really good. The only one I ever have a trouble with is Wyvern. I think Wyvern is the one that, damn, bro, that hitbox when he's doing that big flip in the air is a bit of a nightmare, because your parry is like super small and shortened, is definitely a bitch to go through. But once you're able to, you know, understand the Wyvern one, get it a bit more, it's fine, because for me, Night is not really an issue. So I actually really love the Master King Coco trial now. Very fun challenge for me. I don't mind that at all. Then get to the true end, which cinematic love. That is how you change an ending, bro, because you start with the original Supreme fight again, right? But then it does the fake out where, you know, the end pulls in, plugs him in, and you are getting the coolest sort of cinematic value you get out of this game, right? Where, you know, you're starting to hit him, the enemies are attacking you. Sonic uses the abilities learned to enter, you know, Cyber Sonic space, or whatever you want to call it, Starfall Island Sonic with the blue eyes, right? And then you're doing way more damage. You're able to parry. When you parry, you're knocking shit out the way. You can do a side loop to trap, you know, the end, and you can crush him with the finger snap, which looks sick. You do the slashes into the Akuma pose. Like, he is decked out. You're doing crazy shit like stopping a giant death beam. He gets kicked out of his super form. He gets back into it. Like, it is so raw up to the even end of it, where you're just punching him into the air, doing crazy hits onto it and everything. Like, it is so cool how much they try to make Sonic cool as hell. You're getting the sickest version of I'm Here with Kellen Quinn, which made so much more sense. It is incredible. I love listening to that track so much. And just overall, man, I love that ending so much more. Not in terms of just raw energy, but then you have fucking Eggman shooting you out of a cannon. Sonic is like losing his shit, which was so raw to me. Turning to Sonic, boom, getting right into the end and ending it in an incredible, damaging way, which... oh man, I loved it so much, bro. That ending to me always gives me chills. It gets me hype, and I'm like, damn, bro, whatever they do next, I am so beyond excited, right? And the game ends this time around, you know, Sage alive, standing there with Dr. Eggman, and the gang leaves in the same way, but this time a different vocal theme is hitting. I'm Always With You, which was the song that plays in the final version of the end, but with no lyrics, but now it has lyrics, and super dope, man. I loved what they were able to do, and it's very rare you get a developer do this, not only because typically you don't want your game initially to have an ending that left people sour, but there's very rare times where a developer will go out the way to be like, yo, let's do it, man. Like, let's fix it. Let's get a true ending to the game in there, right? And I think I love having that. I love that it exists. I'm happy that whether, you know, that was supposed to be the case or not, that I'm happy it's there, right? And I think it's going to be something important for a lot of people. And I think it made it so that, damn, the end of Frontiers is a lot more hype. And I think this is the reason when it comes to Sonic Frontiers that I think overall it's such a special 3D game. My favorite when I think about it, it's just because it has so much stuff I love. It's a game that definitely has jank, and you can tell where it's not finished, but it gives me that sense. It has everything. The thing about the game is, while it's not perfect, it has everything I want for a Sonic game in it, right? It has a combat system for modern Sonic, right? Where he feels fast and flashy, but I just want it fleshed out, right? There are, you know, challenge levels like cyberspace levels, but I want them to all be original, but they're fun, right? It has an open zone, which is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted a sense of freedom with Sonic, right? But I want them to be in more Sonic-like locations, right? There's incredible cinematic moments, right? But I want, you know, rival battles, right? I want them to be even more fleshed out than being able to parry everything, right? Like I think everything I really want from Sonic is there. So a story that is serious and takes the lore seriously, right? Everything I want from a Sonic game, genuinely, right? But I just want it to be better, right? You know, but it has everything I want. I think that's the big reason I love it so much. It even has playable characters, right? You have Knuckles, Amy, Tails in there, but I want them more fleshed out. I want more stuff to do with them, right? And I think that's why I adore this game so much, is it has everything I want out of a Sonic game, and it gives me that big O. I'm like, damn, bro, whatever they're cooking next. That's why I really trust Shadow Generation is going to be incredible, because you can tell it's the team that learned from this, and you can tell from the level designs they've shown, from the bosses that they've shown, and everything like that they get it right now. And I think it's going to be incredible, and I can't wait to see, because even Shadow Generations, right, it's still a celebration of the past as following generations. So whatever they do in the future, I'm all in. But I will never really, you know, I cannot ever get over how Sonic Frontiers is such a special game for me and a lot of people, and I really wonder how a lot of you think about it, because I know there's a lot of opinions about Sonic Frontiers, right? I know a lot of people, some people think it's an all right, some people always say, the best way people describe it is like, damn, bro, this is a 7 out of 10, but it's the best 7 out of 10 I've ever played in my life. And for me, like, it's like, I love the game so much, and realizing, you know, playing a bunch of the 3D Sonic games, realizing a lot of them have flaws, but this game like has flaws, but it also has everything I ever want from a Sonic game in it, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So guys, let me know what you guys think of Sonic Frontiers, you know, now that we're nearing damn 2 years later since the game launched. And of course, I love you. Thank you all for watching. Of course, I'll see you all next time. Peace out.